It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of March 31st, 2000. We got 4 movies to look at today, so let's not waste any more time. Let's just go ahead and jump on into it, and we'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, the latest animated feature from DreamWorks, and that is The Road to El Dorado. So The Road to El Dorado follows these two con men played by Kevin Kline and Kenneth Branagh, who, after winning the map to El Dorado in Spain, wash ashore in the New World. The map leads the two men to the city of El Dorado, where the inhabitants mistake them for gods. You also have Rosie Perez, Armando Sante, and Edward James Olmos among the cast of the film. And this film had a lot of troubles in production. It wasn't quite Emperor's New Groove levels of bad, but it definitely was up there. This was a film that was originally intended to be a straight-up send-off of the Road 2 movies, the ones with Bob Hope and Bing Crosby. The writers of this, Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio, I think. That was what the original intent of the film was, and they had Will Finn, who's a prolific voice director as well, director and voice actor, and David Silverman of The Simpsons, intended to direct the film. However, the story changed when Jeffrey Katzenberg wanted to make the film a big, epic PG-13 drama, like something like The Prince of Egypt was, but except The Prince of Egypt was not PG-13, but it was a much more adult movie. And then after that happened, they basically just went back to what it was supposed to be before, kind of a rip-off, kind of an homage to the Road 2 movies, and it was called by many people at the time El Dorado, the Lost City on Hold, and it was because there were so many different ways they were trying to make this movie. It really didn't. The history behind this movie, basically, what I'm trying to say here, is pretty messed up. I mean, there's just too much going on here. Like I said, it's not Emperor's New Groove bad. We'll get to that at the end of the year, but it's very much up there, and it's a very underrated movie, honestly. The animation overall is very good. The voice work is top-notch. You've got Kevin Kline, Kenneth Branagh, Rosie Perez, Armando Sante, Edward James Olmos, Tobin Bell, pre-Saw, Jim Cummings, Frank Welker, a really strong voice cast. The animation overall is really, really good. And so is the music. The music by Elton John and Tim Rice surprisingly works really well. And there are a lot of elements to the film I really do like. There are a lot of elements, too, that are not quite as good. Some of the story elements are kind of predictable, and some of the animation is too good for its own good, if there's a way to say that in any other way, shape, or form. But there are definitely times in this movie when the animation is too good for its own good. I think Nostalgia Critic said it best. The animation moves a little too fluently and too realistic, because that was the original intent of the film. That was supposed to be like a sort of like with the Road 2 movies. However, the big difference with the Road 2 movies is that they were filmed more as a cartoon, even though those were live-action films. And in this case, it kind of works the opposite way, but it doesn't. But not really. I mean, it's a film that really. There is a lot about it to admire, and of course it has had a significant cult following over the years, despite the fact that it was not the big hit that it was supposed to be when it came out. But it has gone on to have a massive cult following, and I mean, it's become notably known as a film with a lot of memeable potential to it. I mean, so many moments in this movie happen where there's just, like, you see gifs of it all the time. You see people, you still see people at cons dressed up as the Rosie Perez character. I can't remember her name, Chell. You still see a lot of people dressed up like her. You see people dressed up as Tulio Miguel. So this movie has had a lasting impact after all these years, and quite frankly, I can see why. This is a film that has a lot of elements to it that do work. Not everything about it works overall, but it's fine for what it's really good. It's really, really good for the most part. Just a couple of little misfires here and there, but other than that, though, it's a fun movie. I would say it's definitely one of the more underrated DreamWorks movies, and really, that's saying a lot, because a lot of DreamWorks animated films that of recently are very underrated films. We just had Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken come out. That's definitely one that I would put on that list, but this is definitely up there with some of their more underrated gems. It's one that I would definitely say I recommend checking out. It's definitely worth a watch. So that is The Road to El Dorado. On to the next movie, and that is Paul Walker and Joshua Jackson in The Scrolls. Or The Skulls. What did I say before? The Scrolls? I'm thinking of the things from the Marvel movies, but no, this is The Skulls. This is a story about the conspiracy theory surrounding Yale University Skull and Bone Student Society, and you have As I mentioned, Joshua Jackson, Paul Walker, and Leslie Bibb, Christopher McDonald, Hill Harper, Craig T. Nelson, William Peterson among the cast in here. This is directed by Rob Cohen. One of his first of many films where he kind of, you have this older director going back, is trying to be hip and appealing to the kids, because he made a lot of movies in the 2000s that were basically films that were trying to appeal to a much younger audience than basically he was. I mean, Fast and Furious comes to mind, CLIPLESS, Stealth, The Boy Next Door, The Hurricane Heist, and most of those movies were not great films. And this one definitely is not. It's a cool idea, just not the right execution overall. I think what does carry it over is the performances by Joshua Jackson and Paul Walker. These are really good performances from these two. Craig T. Nelson, it's fun to see him as an antagonist in the film. It's very very rare to see that from him, because you associate him mostly with Mr. Incredible as well as Coach Hayden Fox on Coach. And seeing him taking on more of an antagonistic role in here is kind of fun as well. It has some elements to it that work, but story-wise, we've seen this done over and over again. It's nothing too special. It's nothing too extravagant. It doesn't really do a lot to make it a must-watch movie. Maybe for a one-time watch it's worth it, but at the same time, I wouldn't rush out to see it if I were you. I would just say, if it's on TV once and there's nothing else on, you could watch it once and then be like, I've seen worse. That's the best way to describe this movie. I've seen worse. So, yeah, not a very glowing review on that one. But I will give a glowing review to our next movie, and that is John Cusack in High Fidelity. So this is based off of a novel by Nick Hornby, who's actually had a couple of movies made off of his work. About a Boy came after this, and then Fever Pitch, which is a criminally underrated Farrelly Brothers movie, which surprisingly stars Jimmy Fallon in a really good performance. He doesn't have a whole lot of good film roles, but that's probably his best one overall. But here, you have the story of this guy who, following a breakup with his most recent girlfriend, recounts his most painful breakup, seeking to find a reason for his failed romances. It's styled around Rob talking to the camera and narrating his own story, and you also have people like Jack Black in here, as well as Lisa Bonet among the cast, and it's a really solid film. This is directed by Stephen Frears, who was kind of on a little bit of a downward spiral in the second half of this decade, but in the second half of the 90s, but he comes out of this into this new decade, all of a sudden coming out and really delivering some really good underrated gems like this one. This is a really well-made film featuring a lot of great performances by the cast itself. John Cusack, Jack Black getting to show what he can do. Joan Cusack is also in the film as well. You have Natasha Gregson Warner in here as well. A lot of elements in here that work. The jokes are very funny. It's very clever, very smart. There are times when it feels like it's trying to be a mix between Clerks and Empire Records, but in a good kind of way. It's not like trying to rip it off by any means, but it is delivering something very enjoyable in the long run. It's definitely worth a watch. I highly recommend checking this one out. High Fidelity. Definitely check it out. So that's that one. Let's go ahead and move on to our last film. That is Jimmy Smits in Price of Glory. I see this and I'm thinking of the other New Line 2000s movie with a similar title, Pride and Glory, but that's 8 years down the road. This is Jimmy Smits in Price of Glory. So Jimmy Smits stars as this man with enduring aspirations of becoming a competitor in professional boxing. When he has the intellect, ambition, and agility to be a professional, but his career proves to be a short one, and after living out his 15 minutes of fame, he's basically washed up. And he insists his passion for boxing is to his sons, who have grown up learning about the world of prize fighting. The three boys begin competing in the ring with Arturo as their manager and coach, but Johnny swiftly displays so much promise that other managers and promoters want to take over his contract and make him the next boxing champion. Arturo feels let down when Sonny decides that he wants to work with another manager, while his other two sons rail against Sonny for turning his back on his father and hope Arturo has the same conviction in their talents in the ring. Kind of a little bit too much like Rocky in a way, except that, like, if Rocky had three sons and they wanted to be boxers, and like, it kind of feels like they were trying to go down that route. And, you know, I like Jimmy Smits a lot. I think he's a really great actor. This is one of those ones where you really wanted to pull through, because this is a film that definitely works to his potential and stuff that he's shown in other great shows and movies. But here he's just not really given a whole lot to do. I mean, it's a film that has potential at times, has the potential to be something really good and really inspiring, but it just never really sticks the landing in the long run. It's kind of a disappointment. Yeah, avoid this one like the plague. I really don't have much more to say about this one. This is Price of Glory. So with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. When we meet next time, we'll head into April with 4 movies, including Tommy Lee Jones and Samuel L. Jackson in Rules of Engagement. We also have David Duchovny in Return to Me, David Arquette in the boxing comedy Ready to Rumble, and also Black and White. So 4 movies to look at next time. We'll delve into those in the next episode. But until then, thank you so much for watching. And if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So with that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.